The galaxy is old, its empires are powerful, and its wars are endless. Humanity stands. These are the Empyrean Chronicles.
Defense of Outpost Epsilon. On the edge of known space, Outpost Epsilon stood as humanity's lonely sentinel. A modest listening post, it quietly monitored the volatile frontier, gathering vital data that could one day save entire worlds from invasion. Its defenses were light. Just a few point defense phasers and a handful of torpedo tubes. The station itself was never meant to stand alone in a real fight. But its true value lay in the early warning it could beam back to the core colonies. That data could mean the difference between survival and total defeat for millions. When the Krix Empire launched a surprise invasion to silence it forever, only one ship answered the desperate call for help. The aging USS Vanguard. A heavy battleship, a proud relic from older wars, with engines and systems that had been upgraded over the years, but still carried the scars of long service on the frontier. Outnumbered and outgunned from the very start, the crew of the Vanguard and the Outpost's brave defenders faced an enemy that had never lost a single border skirmish. The Krix came expecting an easy victory. This is the Defense of Outpost Epsilon. The alarms blared across the outpost as sensors lit up like a fireworks display. Red warning lights flashed everywhere. A massive Krix fleet dropped out of warp in perfect formation. 12 capital ships led the charge, supported by dozens of smaller escorts. Their sleek, aggressive hulls gleamed with glowing red accents. Insectoid in design, built for relentless conquest. They formed an advancing crescent and opened fire without hesitation. Long-range plasma barrages streaked across the void in bright orange streaks, hammering the outpost's fragile shields and shaking the entire station. Then the Vanguard arrived, engines flaring as it dropped out of warp at high speed. Captain Elias Kane stood tall on the bridge, grizzled and steady, his eyes locked on the tactical display. His voice cut through the chaos like tempered steel. "All hands to battle stations. Sound general quarters. Today we remind them why humans don't break easy." The old battleship surged forward without delay and took position directly between the oncoming fleet and the vulnerable station. Phaser beams immediately lanced out in brilliant blue-white arcs. Alien plasma bolts slammed against the Vanguard's shields in massive bursts of orange fire, making the entire ship shudder under the impact. The outpost crew watched in awe and relief as the big ship absorbed hit after punishing hit that had been meant for them. "Elias to Epsilon," Kane transmitted calmly. "Keep those deflectors up and hold your position. We'll buy you every second we can." Lieutenant Reyes, the outpost's tough and resourceful chief engineer, replied with grim determination in her voice. "Copy that, Vanguard. Just don't die on us out there. We're counting on you." The Krix pressed their attack in disciplined, unrelenting waves. Half their force focused fire on the Vanguard, pounding the battleship relentlessly with coordinated salvos. The other half continued probing the outpost directly, searching for any weakness in its defenses. Alien fighters swarmed forward like angry wasps, hundreds of them, peppering the battleship's hull with rapid energy strikes and trying to overwhelm its point defenses. Vanguard's phaser banks answered back in sweeping, devastating arcs. Several small craft vanished instantly in bright flashes of light and expanding debris. But the old ship was taking real damage now. Shields dropped steadily to 60%. Minor fires broke out in engineering sections. Damage reports flooded the bridge from every deck. Still, the crew stayed remarkably calm under fire. Engineers worked with practiced hands to reroute power around failing systems. Gunners called out targets with quiet precision, never losing focus. One young ensign muttered over the internal comms, his voice steady despite the chaos. "These bugs hit hard, but they don't know how stubborn we humans can be when our backs are against the wall." The Vanguard could not hold forever under such overwhelming fire. The shields were failing section by section. Captain Kane made a bold, tactical call. "Vent controlled plasma from the impulse engines. Create a defensive screen. Let's blind them for a moment." A thick, glowing green ionized cloud billowed out around the ship, spreading rapidly and temporarily scrambling the Crick's targeting sensors. In that precious haze of confusion, the Vanguard went on the offensive. It charged forward aggressively, weaving between two enemy cruisers with surprising grace and speed for such an old and battle-worn vessel. The human-tuned thrusters responded perfectly to every command. Point-blank broadsides erupted in a fury of light and energy. Phasers and photon torpedoes ripped deep into exposed engine sections and vulnerable hull plating. One Crick's cruiser exploded violently in a brilliant fireball that lit up the surrounding nebula like a second sun. At the same moment, Outpost Epsilon launched its small fighter squadron. 6 retrofitted shuttles, hastily armed with micro-torpedoes, darted out of the plasma cloud like a swarm of determined hornets. They streaked toward the enemy, targeting weapon emplacements and drawing heavy fire away from the station. Explosions rippled across multiple alien hulls as the tiny craft scored precise hit after hit, refusing to back down despite the odds. The Crick's Admiral's cold, clicking voice suddenly broadcast across all open channels, dripping with contempt. "Primitive mammals, your pathetic defiance ends here. Surrender or be erased." Captain Kane's reply came back steady and defiant, carrying across the battlefield. "We've heard that threat before from others who thought they could break us. Spoiler alert, it didn't end well for them either." The plasma screen slowly began to dissipate as the ionized cloud thinned. The fight turned even more brutal now. Close range, knife fight distance in the emptiness of space. The Vanguard traded heavy blows directly with the massive Crick's flagship. Hull plating peeled away in showers of sparks and flame. A critical hit from the enemy knocked out the port phaser array entirely. Engineers in zero-gravity suits quickly suited up and crawled along the outer hull under continuous heavy fire, manually bypassing the damaged systems to restore at least partial power to the weapons. Their courage under fire was extraordinary. The outpost itself was taking heavy damage too. One torpedo tube was knocked offline. Life support began failing in several sections, forcing crews to seal off compartments. But the defenders refused to quit or panic. Working frantically, they jury-rigged their main deflector dish into a powerful makeshift energy lance. When they finally fired it, a massive one-shot beam lanced out across the battlefield and stripped the shields from 3 alien ships at once in a spectacular display of energy. The fighter squadron seized that opening immediately, focusing all their fire on the now exposed nacelles and weapon ports. On the Vanguard bridge, a young crewman took a serious injury from a console explosion. Captain Kane paused only for a brief moment beside him, placing a steady hand on his shoulder. "We hold this line because someone has to. Earth and the colonies are counting on the warning we send today. Keep fighting." The Vanguard was heavily damaged by this point. It trailed streams of plasma from multiple breaches. Shields hovered near total collapse. Yet the crew refused to withdraw or surrender. They pushed every secondary system into overload for one final, desperate push. Kane gave the order with iron resolve. "All remaining power to weapons and engines. We charge straight into the heart of their formation. This ends now." The battleship surged forward in a thunderous counterattack, engines roaring at maximum output. The fighter squadron provided vital covering fire, darting fearlessly through the chaos of exploding debris and energy beams. The outpost fired everything it had left in one last coordinated barrage, pouring every ounce of power into the fight. Human gunners switched to manual optical sights, compensating for the damaged targeting computers with old-school training, steady nerves, and years of hard-earned experience. A sacrificial fighter run by the squadron leader slammed directly into the Kriegs flagship's command array, throwing the entire enemy formation into sudden disarray and confusion. Then the Vanguard delivered the killing blow. A full spread of photon torpedoes streaked forward and slammed straight into the exposed core of the enemy command ship. The resulting explosion was absolutely massive. A blinding flash of light that lit up the entire battlefield as huge chunks of debris rained across the stars in every direction. Leaderless and bloodied, with their command structure shattered, the remaining Kriegs ships broke off their attack and fled into warp, disappearing one by one into the darkness. In the sudden ringing quiet of the aftermath, the heavily damaged Vanguard limped slowly alongside the scarred but still standing Outpost Epsilon. Rescue and relief fleets appeared on long-range sensors, racing toward them at maximum speed to answer the early warning that had been sent just in time. Outnumbered more than 10 to 1, with nothing but an aging battleship and a handful of determined defenders who refused to give up. Humanity had held the line. Not because they possessed the biggest guns or the most advanced technology on the field that day, but because they simply refused to yield even a single inch of ground when it mattered most. The critical data from Epsilon reached the core world safely. The Kriegs Empire would think very carefully before ever testing human resolve on the frontier again. Captain Elias Kane and Lieutenant Reyes finally appeared together on the view screen, their faces weary, smudged with grime, but filled with quiet pride. Kane offered a tired but genuine smile. "Told you we'd buy you time." The USS Vanguard hung against the endless stars, battered, scarred in a dozen places, systems still flickering from overload, but unbroken. A powerful testament to what humans can achieve when the odds are stacked against them and the stakes could not be higher. And the galaxy took notice.
If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more tales of humanity rising among the stars, please like, comment, and subscribe. New stories are released regularly here on Empyrean Chronicles.